Hello Bookish Babes, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so very glad that you clicked on today's video to join me in bringing you another book review. And as you can see by today's title, I'm going to be bringing you my review on Behind Closed Doors by B.A.Paris. And I cannot wait to do this, and I'm just so excited. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. I ended up giving this book clearly 5 stars. I can say it is by far my favorite psych thriller of all time. Oh my gosh, definition of a psych thriller right here. Definition of on the edge of my seat. I cannot recommend this book enough. Grab yourself a copy, and when you do and you finish it, let me know down below what you rate it, because I mean, you will love it. But just to give you a little synopsis of the book, we're following Jack and Grace. They are a recently newlywed couple, and everything about them is great. I mean, they're gorgeous. They have a fantastic, gigantic house. You know what I mean? They have money. They are fit and healthy. They plan the most amazing dinner parties. Everything is just great. But people in Grace's life are starting to question, why is it that we only see her if there's a dinner party at her house? Why can't she come with us to luncheons? Why isn't she able to come over to our house? Why can't we visit her? Why is everything she does so closely calculated and meticulously watched and scheduled by her husband, Jack? What could be going on behind those closed doors? And that's what you're gonna find out. Everything was perfect. She was in full bliss, in La La Land, love at first sight. It was just meant to be. And then the wedding night came, and everything changed, and Jack really began to show his true colors of who he actually was. What really made the book put me more of on an edge is that this book also follows the fact that Grace has a sister who has Down syndrome, her younger sister, who she has full guardianship of. And so the tension and the thrill of it really came with the fact that Millie, her sister, would be in grave danger if Grace couldn't find a way to get herself out of the situation that she was in. And so the book goes between past and present. It shows what led up to the situation and then where they're at now. And not only was their house perfect and everything about it was great, but there were high security metal shutters on all the downstairs windows. And so you just have to imagine that. Imagine that that is the life that you're in. You expect one thing, and then you see this, and you don't know how to get out of it. And I think that is where it was. Like the way that this author wrote, she was able to make it in such a way to where you were able to literally go through this and experience it with Grace. It wasn't like you were just reading a story. It was like you were living the story with her. And I think that's why it was so thrilling. That's why the heart palpitations were happening. That's why it was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can turn to the next page, because it's like you were literally in her shoes with her. And I think that is one thing that took this book to a completely different level for me, was that the author was able to do that. I'm a person who absolutely loves true crime and thrillers and investigative TV and things of that nature. And so reading this was almost like I was sitting in a courtroom and Grace was just letting it all happen. You were able to see it. And I think that was just unbelievable. It wasn't like reading some secondhand information. It was like I'm living through this with her. And so I just think it was amazing. So I highly recommend that you pick it up so that you can figure out what is truly happening behind these closed doors and why time is so of the essence in terms of what Grace is doing so that she can protect her sister Millie. Because what is Jack's actual motive? What is his reason and his fixation on Grace and on Millie? And so this was just exquisite, excellent writing, super fast paced, never boring, never dull. It flowed perfectly. Something that I feel like was so brought to the forefront in this book, which was observation. I think a lot of us like to think we are very observant people, but then when the situation kind of comes up, you're like, oh, I didn't even notice. I didn't notice that. Oh my gosh, I wasn't aware. But I really think as people, we should really make it our mission to be as observant as we possibly can. No, I don't necessarily think reading into every little thing and becoming paranoid and, thinking everything is something wrong, but just being very keen and aware of what's happening around you. Because I think those little moments that may to you seem completely insignificant might be the very thing that someone needs to help them and keep them safe. And that is what she portrayed in this book with one of the characters named Esther. And that was just, oh my gosh, subtle, but so amazing in the end, where you were like, I hope that I first of all, obviously never have to go through a situation such as that, or anyone in my life that I know. But nonetheless, if anything like that were to transpire in any type of way, any form of danger or issue that was happening, I hope that I can be a person so observant of what's going on that I can pick up on things and that I can see it so that I can be of help in the best way that I can for that person. And so yeah, that was just amazing. I could go on and on, honestly, but we should just dive into the spoilers so that I can give you little juicy bits if you want them. And if you're ending off here because you want to pick it up and you don't want any spoilers, I am so happy for you and I hope you love it. Let me know when you read it down below what you thought, your ratings and your feelings on the book. I would love to hear and talk to you about it. And do not forget to give the video a thumbs up and share it if you know anybody else who is really into psych thrillers and want something really good in their hands to read, as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit your notification bell. Then every time I post, you'll be notified. And so if I end up reading any more thrillers and you're into that, you will be able to know when they upload so that you can watch them. But yeah, without taking any more of anybody's time, let's dive straight into the spoilers. Okay, this was amazing. So basically, as you kind of feel the book going and you're reading through it, Grace gets away. But the question is how she does it. As I mentioned, Grace has a younger sister who has Down syndrome, and I think it's really easy for people to second guess and judge and assume because of someone's disability or, you know, life experiences or whatnot, that they're incapable or unable to handle things or understand things or prove useful in situations. And I think this author showed how wrong people are to think that. But basically, Millie, like I said, was in a boarding school for a certain amount of time because Grace had full guardianship over her, and it was just better for her to get as the best care that she could until she was 18. But also Grace had her in there to protect her from Jack and to keep her safe. Well, when Grace and Jack ended up getting married, Jack actually violently pushed Millie down the stairs, but made it in such a way that it looked like she just fell. And that is something that stuck with Millie. So once Grace's relationship, you know, developed and she got into the house and she realized she was being held captive, she was going to be tortured, and that Millie was going to be tortured in that torture chamber that Jack was preparing for her and was just waiting for her to be released from that program, Grace knew that she had to find a way to get out. But everything in her life was meticulously watched. She couldn't do, say, drink, wear anything. She was locked in a room with nothing 24 hours a day. Some days she was never fed. And so she was broken, but she knew she had to stay strong for her sister. Well, she didn't realize Millie knew all along. Millie was completely aware of who pushed her. She completely knew how evil Jack was. So she began to complain of not being able to sleep. So the program was able to actually give her sleeping pills at night, like melatonin, to help her go to bed. But she was lying. She was doing it for months to collect each pill. So every time they gave her one, she'd pretend to swallow it and she would collect them. And so one afternoon, they decided to go to lunch with Grace, Jack, and Millie and go eat. And Millie was complaining about needing to go to the bathroom and that Grace needs to come with her. And Jack was really adamant against it, but you know, he couldn't cause a scene, so he allowed it, but he followed them, but didn't go in the bathroom. And Millie then showed Grace the pills. She says, I've been collecting these. I know that he's a bad man. He pushed me down the stairs. You have to kill him. We have to get away. We can't be there with him. It's not safe. And Grace was completely taken aback. At first she was like, no, there's no way that my sister can comprehend what's going on. There's no way. Like, Millie, we can't. No, you're confused. But then she let it sink in that I underestimated her too. She saw my need and she came through. So Grace took the pills and decided to figure out a way of how to kill her husband. As you know, with everything in her life being watched, she's never given that opportunity. So she devised a plan that if she can get him on her routine to continue to do something, which is what his life is, then she knows she can get him. So she stopped eating her food. He can't have her do that because she'll die. So she thought, well, if I stop eating my food and complain that a glass of whiskey will help me get my appetite back, then hopefully every night when he gets home from work, he'll grab a glass of whiskey for me and bring it up to my room. He grabs himself one anyways, might as well create that routine. So he kept doing it. But the first, weeks of him doing it, he never brought up his drink. Slowly but surely, he started bringing up his drink and drinking it with her. And then she convinced him to start speaking with her because he didn't communicate with her unless he needed to. And so they started having conversations about his job, so on and so forth. So she knew, if I can continue to get him to do this, if he loses this big case he has coming up, because it looks like odds are against him, he'll want to decompress. He'll want to talk to me about it. That might be the opportunity for me to get close enough to him to dust and pour the little dusty powder of these pills she's crushed up into his drink. And so as the time progressed, they got closer to the day of the case, and he lost the case. So when he came home, what did he do? He made her glass, his glass, and he was coming up the stairs. So she thought the only way to get close to him is to complain of something. So she began to like rub her eyes really quickly so that they looked red and complain that there was something in her eyes. So when he came in, he immediately went over to her and was looking. It's like he almost broke a little wall that he had created. Something in him had broken a little bit, and he came up to her and was actually looking in her eye. And so she said, give me your drink. Let me hold it. I can help you, like that. She grabbed his drink. I was able to get the powder in there. She whisked it really fast with her finger and then like gave it back. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. I got it. He drank it and became really drowsy and knew it was wrong and just ran after her. So at that point in the book, you're thinking, okay, we got the powder in the pills in his drink. How is she going to get away? There's no way this has happened. No one believes her. No one knows what's going on. She runs to the house, hides, he finds her, and it's like, I'm taking you down to the torture chamber that's meant for Millie, and you can wait there until she gets in there with you, basically, and that's what we're going to do. But he's really drowsy now because he's taking the pills. So they go downstairs in the basement, and she's hanging on. She's like, the only way to get away is to never let go. So she's holding onto his body. He opens that torture chamber that is blood red. And they go in, and he's like, get off of me, and they're fighting, and he falls to the ground, but she's on top of him. So she's able to get up quick enough and to leave the room and slam the door. There's no way to exit the room from the inside because he's already told her that. And so he's locked in there. So she runs away, and it's like, the only thing I know what to do is go on that little getaway trip they had planned. And now he had made mention to it randomly to a group of friends that if the case he loses, he'll probably let her go first so he can decompress. So all of the checkboard, all the little pieces on the like puzzle just kind of went together. And so she called Esther, one of the friends that they recently met, who's been at a few dinner parties. Hey, Jack lost his case. He's struggling right now. Could you pick me up, take me to the airport? He says he's going to meet me later. Esther 100% came over, drove to the airport, dropped her off. Grace went to the vacation. She informed everybody, of what's going on, and he'll be here later, you know what I mean, so on and so forth. But she knew it was a possibility he could get out. She didn't know if he had thought of all the bases. So she began to call his phone that she knew was turned off to make it sound as though she's worried about him. Oh, honey, how are you? How are you doing? So on and so forth, like, let me help you out. Just let me know if you need me. I'm here. Can't wait for you to show up. Every night she did that. She began to get a little distraught. Also, her nerves were getting the better of her. So she started talking to different patrons at the hotel. And, oh, my fiance's coming. Or my husband's coming. And he's had lost a case. So on and so forth like that. And then she started, as the days progressed, decided to call some of his friends to create more of a story of what's happening. So she called a lawyer friend. Have you heard from Jack? No, I haven't. I'm going to go check the house. So eventually he goes, checks with police. They find Jack dead in the torture chamber from dehydration. He got what he deserved. You know what I mean? Completely got what he deserved. And so she's like, oh my God, I got to rush home, doing all the acting. Gets home and she's in the airport and she just hopes that his lawyer friend comes because she knows that she could really sell that, bereaved wife. But Esther shows up. So she starts freaking out, because she knows Esther is clever and she's aware that Esther has been picking up on those little things that have been happening. And Esther gets there and she's like, oh my gosh, Grace, let's go have some coffee. And at that part of the book, I was like, wait, so we know Grace got away. She killed her husband, or he died of dehydration in the room. But why is this woman acting so funny? I didn't understand. I'm like, she's going to turn her in. That's what I was thinking. She's like, let's grab coffee. And Grace is like, no, my husband died. I have to get to the house. The police. She's like, no, we're going to sit and have coffee. And she said, Grace, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. You remember when I came and picked you up, how Jack was in the office and he waved to both of us and he gave you a kiss? And then he said that he couldn't come out the house because he was busy. Do you remember that, Grace? And Grace is sitting there and she's like, yes. And do you remember how when we were on the way to the airport, he gave you a call and was talking to you and told you that he loved you and that he'll see you soon? Do you remember that, Grace? Okay, everything's going to be okay. And she's sitting there and her mind is racing. She was like, but Esther, how did you know? How did you know what happened? And that's when the moment of the book, like I said, solidified. This was one of the best thrillers that I've ever read. It was that moment that Esther showed her true colors and showed that she paid attention to the most subtle things that ultimately saved Grace's life. And she said, I remember when we came to your house for the first dinner party and you showed me Millie's room and it was yellow, the pretty room upstairs, as it being her favorite color. But then the second time I was over, Jack mentioned that Millie is gonna love her red room. And the red room was the torture chamber downstairs that his body was found in. And so at Millie's party, do you remember how I bought her that red box to match her red room? I assumed she changed the color, and Millie was so upset. Do you remember, Grace? And she kept saying to me, oh, but my room is yellow. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can return it. I thought your room is red. Jack, didn't you say it? And he said, no, I remember saying her room is yellow. And so when I found his body, when they found his body, that's when she knew. And so the last line ended with, Grace, what color was Millie's room actually supposed to be? And Grace was like, her room was supposed to be red. And then the book ended. And I mean, emotion I've never felt reading a book like this just welled up inside of me. It was just chilling, chill bumps. It was so good. And so those are the spoilers I'll give you. Clearly, even with those of knowing that she got away, you need to read this book. When I mean it, oh my God, it was so good. That's all I can say, or I'll talk forever. But like, this was amazing. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you liked it. And I hope that you grab a copy and read it, even if you stay to the end, because honestly, this was amazing. And then I'll catch you guys all in my very next video, because if I keep talking, I'll talk forever.